You're now listening to the Wednesday Night AAF podcast.
Don't talk about that team that plays desert.
Here are your hosts, Nick and Logan.
Hey everybody, Nick here with the Wednesday Night AAF podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at AAF Wednesday. With week 6 in the books in the AAF, we're going to have a quick episode this week. But first, I'd like to introduce my co-host and your best friend, Logan. How's it going, Logan? And how'd you enjoy week 6 in the AAF?
And Garrett Gilbert has thrown another interception, and the Arizona Hotshots have knocked off the Orlando Apollos. Shot.
Then, of course, our new host, Alex. How's it going, Alex? And what'd you think of week 6 in the AAF?
Week 6 was good. Week 6 was almost as good as week 5.
What was your favorite part of week 6?
I ordered pizza.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get things started. We'll talk about the biggest news probably in the history of the AAF thus far, even though there's only been 6 weeks of it. But obviously the signing of Johnny Manziel to the Memphis Express. Thoughts, Alex?
Oh boy. Well, Johnny Manziel, I've followed his career since college. We went into college around the same time. I think I mentioned that the first time I was on this podcast.
So we probably went same time as well.
Yeah, and sort of watched him progress. I had a boss that really liked him, so I immediately hated him, and have enjoyed watching him fail in a sick, sadistic way. But now that he is in the AAF, and this is kind of his last chance to set things right before he's completely banished to football obscurity, I think I'm interested to see how he will succeed if he does. Because he could be a success as a guy that brings a lot of eyes to the AAF. He could be a success by playing very well. He could also be a success by just not screwing up in his personal life. There are 3 avenues right there for him to potentially succeed, and I'm curious to see which, if any, hopefully all, that he does.
What's interesting, though, is that they thought that Hackenberg was going to be the guy to bring eyes to the AAF. I'm not sure why, just because he was a second-round draft pick. I guess that's what they were thinking. I don't know why, but yeah.
He was a recognizable name, and there weren't any recognizable quarterbacks in the AAF. I mean, obviously, Johnny Football is miles and miles ahead in recognizability from Hackenberg.
Does he start this week?
Yes.
Do you think the game that he has against No Extra Points does not have on their fucking thing?
The Reddit does.
What does the Reddit
They're
say?
playing Iron.
Playing the Iron. Okay, all right, so I'll start over. So, if he starts this week against the Iron, what do you think his stats look like?
Oh, that's a big gamble. I'd say 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
A lot of rushing yards.
Yeah, lots of rushing yards, and no more than like 200 passing yards.
Do you think he gets a win over the Iron?
I don't know. After they beat the Fleet this last week, I'm not sure what to think of the Iron. Because, like, Luis Perez, I don't want to get too far ahead, but talk about rising from the ashes. I don't know. I don't know if the Express can beat the Iron.
And this is their season. They have to win out. And it begins with the game this week. I think literally the scenarios for them to make the playoffs, if they have to win out, and Birmingham almost has to lose out, I believe.
Right. They no longer control their fate.
And you kind of wish this happened earlier, just to kind of see what would happen. I mean...
Well, it's embarrassing that they lost to the Legends.
Yeah, I know. I mean, who was really a believer in Mettenberger anyway? I mean, there was nobody ever a believer in him. Same with Aaron Murray.
I don't even know what a burger believer is.
It's all about Manziel burgers now.
Are you a Manziel burger believer?
Yeah. And I also like the John Wolford hot dog.
Moving
I understand
on.
that reference. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, I'm afraid to ask.
There is no reference whatsoever. It was on the fly. That's his new nickname, the Wolford dog.
Wolford hot dog.
The Wolford dog.
Is it because he goes and waddles out of the pocket and somehow makes it 30-yard pass to Rashard Ross?
Yes, Rashard Ross! Shots!
Very nice. Anything else on Manziel before we move on to the recap of Week 6?
I think whether you like the guy or not, he's good for the AAF, and he's going to keep it. He's going to be a big part of them ratings wise. I'm ultimately pulling for him because I want to see this league last, and I think he is going to be a big part of it.
I think that Johnny Manziel will find success on the field, and the biggest reason for that is the AAF has a lot of college qualities to the kind of play, and Johnny Manziel was a phenomenal college quarterback. I think I've said this about 100 million times on the AAFB Twitter account, but having a mobile quarterback is almost a cheat code in the AAF. Being able to have a guy who can run for the first down, scramble away from the pass rush. He can do all of those things.
Yeah, the fact that Hackenberg had a rushing touchdown against the Hot Shots, then Manziel's essentially going to be a god.
He's going to exploit that big time.
I mean, look at what Garrett Gilbert's doing. He's not even the fastest quarterback out there. I mean,
and Perez's backup, Price, who started
Price.
last week, was a mobile quarterback who could do some serious damage with his legs, too.
Same with Williams of the Commanders. So we'll go ahead and... Go ahead, sorry.
I said nobody's really exploited it to its fullest yet, and that's going to be Johnny.
Yeah. Moving on to Week 6 action. We had the Memphis Express losing to the Salt Lake Stallions 22-9. I saw this game. This was an embarrassment to be an Express fan, especially Verber believer. Mettenberger goes down in the first quarter, one of the first drives that the Express have, and so they have to trot Silvers out, who gets them a touchdown in quarter 2. But outside of the second quarter, Memphis did not score a single point. They only scored 9 points the entire game. All 9 were scored in the second.
does this put the dagger into the heart of the Express? Most likely so.
Well, it depends if Manziel can
because they're
run
in
the table or what's left.
They're in a very weird situation where it's not weird. I don't know why I say weird, but they're in a situation where they're going to have to, like we just spoke of, they're going to have to win out and the Iron have to lose out, and that's a tough situation to be in. And then you got to have the Legends at least lose one game as well. It's
that won't
I
be
just
that
don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't think
no.
you have to worry about the Legends losing another game.
I just don't think Birmingham loses out. I don't see it.
But what's
They'll win at
interesting
least
though
one.
is that they feel like that they have to start Manziel over Silvers, even though Silvers had a fantastic stat line: 23 of 37, 242 yards, 1 touchdown.
And I hate to get conspiracy theory wise, but is the league just going to make them start them?
I don't think they'll have to, because I think Memphis knows that it's the right.
It's good for business.
Yeah, they're going to be able to sell jerseys. It's crazy because we all think of Johnny Football as this reviled figure, but he has a huge fan base in this country of people that have been waiting for him to come back to the United States after he went to Canada, and they didn't have to wait too long, but who have never gotten over how awesome he was in college. So people are going to watch him. They're going to be excited. They've got a bunch of new fans by getting him. Now, I think the real question is, did the Commanders make a mistake by passing on him?
I feel like that the Commanders probably saw it as a good thing to pass him up because of the fact of what they have going on right now, with them only losing 2 games. So they're 4-2. Like, they're sitting pretty right now. I mean, I don't know how the cap works, if there is a cap in AAF, but I'm thinking that they probably don't want to mess up the chemistry as is with Woodside and Williams.
There isn't a cap, but there's a player cap because everybody has the same contract.
Yeah. It was probably another one of those Hackenberg, I'll only play if I start with
Could be.
Manziel.
I think also that they like their, as you said, they like their situation. They've got good chemistry on the field. They're seeing success. They already have the biggest turnout of any other AAF team, so they don't need him for the eyeballs.
Right.
So
They're first in the West. I mean,
it's a bigger risk than they need to take. They can ship him down the river.
Right. But all in all, what a fantastic showing by the Stallions. Woodrum, 24 of 37, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 2 2-point conversions. Spread the ball around a lot. Logan, your thoughts?
I was stunned. I figured that the Stallions would be very even with the Express. I figured it'd be a close game, come down to the end. I didn't get to see the game, but I was absolutely stunned following it on Twitter that the Stallions just dominated from the beginning to the end. I can't say I'm surprised because they have showed potential this year, but I'm more so surprised at how the Express played. It's almost like they no-showed. Just really stunning in a way.
Yeah.
The Stallions' defensive front just flattened the Express. I mean,
see
6 sacks. Carter Schultz and Palapoy and Chris Odom all had 2 each. Bunch of QB hits. It's hard to deny that the defensive front of the Stallions is the best in the league. And
also, I see in the stats, like, it looks like, did the Express get into the red zone a lot and not score? Because, stats-wise, Brandon Silvers didn't play that bad. And,
they didn't get that close because they weren't in field goal range more than once.
Also, I think Stacy was hurt.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing him. I didn't hear about him going out of the game, but I couldn't tell you if he got hurt.
I see that some of the receivers had some really good games for the Express, like Reese Horn went 8 receptions on 10 targets for 129 yards, and Daniel Williams had 7 for 11 for 70. I guess that was probably just padding the stats at the end, trying to come from behind.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Because the Stallions, for their great defensive front, do not have great corners.
Right.
And you saw that at the end of the Fleet game that was so close that they let a 50-yard pass in the final minute of the game. They just can't. They're real good at hitting the guy after he catches the ball, but they cannot defend the pass well.
Yeah. Moving on to the Commanders of San Antonio blowing out the Atlanta Legends 37-6 with an impressive second quarter outing by the Commanders. 20 points scored in the second quarter. Unbelievable. They spread out the scoring outside of that. 6 in the first quarter, 3 in the third, 8 in the fourth. Atlanta could only get 6 in the second. Thoughts on that, Alex?
It was 3 points shy of matching the drubbing that the Legends got the first week against the Apollos. But I feel like as a football game story, it was absolutely a worse trashing than week 1 against the Apollos. The Legends have a better team now than they did back then. They found a quarterback that they feel works for them. They've established their identity on offense, and they've found some success on defense. But the Commanders just ate Murray alive.
Yeah, the fact that he had 3 interceptions is very telling. Logan?
Yeah, you look at that stat line, 3 interceptions. That's just crazy considering what he's did.
That got dropped.
Yeah, considering the last 2 games that he's came out and played very, very well. Just the Commanders, their defense is just rolling right now. It's gonna be interesting. Who's gonna win the West? Because right now the Commanders look amazing, but then you got the Hot Shots who just came off a huge win against the best team in the league. It's gonna be interesting. Don't count out San Diego as well, or Salt Lake. That West is just stacked.
Can we just have all 4 teams in the playoffs? Just, you know what they should do? Seriously, they should just have it be like college championship week. Give all of the teams in the conference a chance to win the conference championship, right?
Because they're so good, and just let Orlando get an automatic bye from the East into the championship.
Well, no, like have them have like a first round bye. You know what I mean?
Right.
Do how the AC does it.
Yeah, but I feel bad because there's gonna be like really good West teams left out.
Yeah.
And you're gonna get like Birmingham in there.
The Stallions are a dark horse pick to make the second playoff spot, but if I had to call it right now, I'd say Commanders and Fleet end up making it, and then you have a bunch of people arguing over whether or not the Hot Shots or the Stallions could have won in the playoffs. So I'm actually really excited about that because unlike in the East with 2 teams that everybody's comfortable saying don't belong in the playoffs, the West, you can have those kinds of arguments. It makes me excited for hopefully next season.
Yeah, and hopefully with some more cities being added in and maybe some more playoff spots, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, and the eventual XFL merger. So moving on to the next game, Birmingham Iron beating the San Diego Fleet in a very, very close game, 32-29. I think this game made a lot of people Burka believers, especially after getting 3 touchdowns. And Luis Perez got his first touchdown.
And second.
And third.
Did it just take a benching to get him going?
I guess.
He watched another couple
YouTube
how-tos YouTube tutorials.
He went on Daily Motion this time.
Oh, yeah.
I felt so bad for Price because he started that game. He was looking good. He took a big hit, probably had to be taken out onto the sideline and checked for a concussion. He appeared to be fine, but Perez lit up once he got back onto the field, and they had to ride the hot hand through the rest of the game, and it turned out to be the right choice. But that guy got his chance to start, and it was taken away from him through no fault of his own.
And you know who still has less than 3 yards per carry?
Was it what? Trench Richardson.
Yep. 2.9 yards per carry, 1 touchdown. Not MVP numbers, but you know.
He only had 1 touchdown? I guess there was one where he was stopped at like the inch line.
Yeah. LaDamian Washington had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. My Mizzou guy.
Yep.
Are we going to be like our grandparents, like when the AAF gets big, and like we're going to be like 50 years from now, going to be like, I remember when Trent Richardson was going into the end zone for 20 touchdowns a season from the 1-yard line.
Back in my day, but we watch AAF on Bleacher Report Live.
And we ate chocolate.
I hate to be the downer about it, but whose grandparents are like bragging about watching minor league baseball? I don't think we're going to be bragging about watching minor league football.
I'll probably have Alzheimer's and won't remember any of this. It's been fun, guys.
You're not getting Alzheimer's tomorrow. Relax.
Yeah, that was like a downer the way you said that. You made it seem like it was all over tomorrow.
Depends
it was
if
a good podcast run.
Depends if I pass this kidney stone or not.
I hope you don't
Sounds
pass
like
it on
you're
air
Alzheimer's
tonight.
either. What's your point?
I don't know what my point is. What were you gonna say, Logan?
I hope you don't pass your kidney stone on air tonight.
Oh God, that would be bad. Moving on to the last game and the upset so far this season, even though the Hot Shots were ranked number 1 after week 1, and then going 2-3, and now they're 3-3 after beating the Orlando Apollos 22-17. Logan, you marked the fuck out when this happened. What happened?
I called this last week. I said it was going to happen. The Arizona Hot Shots defense finally showed up that everybody talked about in the preseason. They got 7 QB hits on Garrett Gilbert. They brought the pressure. They had one interception. Could have had almost 3 or 4. There was a few that were like dropped. And then what was it? 2 forced fumbles. One fumble recovery. And the offense was kind of back to clicking, I'd say. I mean, it wasn't pretty. They were playing a good defense, but considering that Apollos have a great defense and a great secondary, I thought they played they did what they needed to do to win the game. Walford didn't have pretty stats, 16 for 27, 162 yards, but he kind of managed the game and did what he had to do. The running attack looked well, as we had Tim Cook. He ran 71 yards on 11 carries, 6.5 yards per carry. Presley had 13 carries for 57 yards, 4.4 yards a carry. And then Justin Stockton had 12 carries for 37 yards, 3.1 yards a carry. They were switching those guys in and out, and they all just played phenomenal. I'm just stoked about it. The Hot Shots are back, baby.
This was a big win for the coaches of the Arizona Hot Shots, because what I felt like was the biggest improvement and why they won the game is that they were clicking in the first quarter.
Definitely.
And the Hot Shots have taken till the third quarter regularly to heat up. But the coaches got their game plan nailed into the players' heads. They drilled what they needed to drill, and they came out with the offensive capability of beating the opposing team. The Apollos did get the short end of the stick a little bit, because although I do agree that the Hot Shots do have a good defense when they show up, Garrett Gilbert absolutely had the worst game of his AAF career in this one. I mean, he, like you said, there were so many dropped interceptions that I was feeling like they were in serious trouble.
Yeah. Also, shout out to Jeff Locke, former Detroit Lions punter, for some pretty crucial punts in this game that kind of set the tone field position wise. He played a big role in this game.
That's true.
Kind of forcing the Apollo's hand and forcing them to go like 80 or 90 yards every single drive.
But they did it a couple of times.
They did indeed.
90-yard drive.
Just a great punting game. We just want to give a shout out to punters. They matter as well.
Hashtag punters matter too.
Just a wild game. I know we had some controversy at the end with the 10-second runoff.
But that happens all the time in NFL games as well.
My Detroit Lions got screwed over by this call against the Atlanta Falcons. Not this previous year, but the year before. So I feel that's kind of karma turning around and helping out another one of my teams, the Hot Shots.
This is actually the first time I've ever been super invested in a game and seen it end that way. Like, do you guys remember the Oakland Raiders game that had like 5 final plays?
Yes, against the Chiefs.
Yeah, that was an amazing game, and it was so exciting. And I thought that we were getting into a situation where it's going to be like at least one shot into the end zone, and potential for lots of penalties, because these guys are at the end of the game, they're tired, and discipline has not been the Arizona Hot Shots' number one best quality.
No.
So I was like, we're going to see them get closer and closer to the end zone, and then eventually they're going to go into overtime because they'll be close enough to kick the field goal on a final play. But instead, it was the Apollos that had the problem with discipline, and they ended up losing the game because of it. And I was sitting there going, I was watching that. Excuse me. Not okay.
I almost feel like they got into Orlando's head because Orlando's been pushing these other teams around, and Orlando was behind, and it just kind of, I feel like it got the team rattled in a way.
That's funny. It's like the Panthers in 2015. They had no experience playing from behind, and it came back to bite them.
Oh yeah, for sure. Anytime they were down, I feel like they got in their head, and the penalties would be up when they were down, and just like there was no discipline when they were down.
Right, and that's what we saw take down the Apollos.
Yep.
So, with all of this hype going into Week 7, does this help the Hot Shots against the Fleet?
Oh, I just realized. I apologize. I was like, oh, we'll get a field goal and tie it up in that game, but they needed 6. They needed a touchdown.
Right.
There was my math was bad. Excuse me.
I tell you what, though, the way they were moving that ball on that final drive, they probably would have scored.
Yeah.
But we won't speak of that.
Would that have been the end of the Hot Shot season?
No, because
No.
the West is so tight. But it would have hurt big time.
And nobody would have blamed the Hot Shots for losing to the Apollos, even in a close game.
Yeah, I mean, it almost felt like a win, even if they would have lost because they played them so well.
Is there such thing as good loss in the AAF? Like
In
there
an
is in
AAF
college basketball.
10-week season?
Yes.
No, not unless you have Johnny Manziel and he's bringing in the ticket sales.
I have the opposite opinion. I think every loss is a good loss in the AAF because, I read about these. I read these coaches. I read about what these coaches are saying in their press conferences. I typically don't watch them, but a lot of the coaches are saying
to the Elite Eight.
More important than win-loss is getting these guys on tape, showing what they can do, and building their experience on the field. Because their overall number one goal is to get these guys into the NFL.
Right.
So even in a loss, if you have a breakout performance, it's a good loss, and it's a good loss for everybody because you got the tape. As long as you didn't look like a wet noodle out there like the Legends did.
Yeah, that's a pretty fair statement. In that aspect, you are right. I mean,
Yeah, I am.
So go ahead and move on. Can't speak today.
what in the blue hell?
That's when I mess up. Go because I'm trying to get back to what I was trying to say. Rico, you better get your fucking ass out of here before I beat you ass. Beat your
I thought you
ass.
were doing the Batman transition.
Rico. Rico, go. Rico. He's gonna eat my
Rico.
cord.
The new star of the AAF podcast.
Rico, get the fuck out. Move your ass.
Wednesday night cat bag.
All right, I'll edit that out. Moving on to the power rankings for Week 6. Alex, as our newly crowned regular host, third man in our tribe, who you got at number 8?
Hot Shots.
I like it.
What? I'm kidding.
What?
All right.
I put the Legends are at number 8.
Legends. Okay. All right.
Are you going to introduce me as a new host in the intro this time?
Yeah, I'll Logan, are we voting Alex in as the official third host?
Oh hell no! No, I'm kidding. Yes.
All right. Alex is officially third host. Here. All right. Logan, who you got at number 7?
Interesting. He went to Legends. I guess there's no other choice really, but other than Memphis.
Oh man. All right. Number 6, I got the Stallions. I think that it is not right to put them above the Hot Shots after handing the Apollos their first loss. So, Alex, who you got at number 5?
Hot Shots.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The Hot Shots and the Stallions have played each other twice. Each team has won.
Yeah.
I feel like going into the ending of this season, it's going to be a story of who can tear off the most in their difficult schedules.
Right.
But I expect to see them flop.
Logan.
Flip-flop.
Logan.
And I'm going to go with San Diego. I was debating whether them or Birmingham, but Birmingham just won on the road at San Diego, so I'll take the Fleet number 4.
All right. I will take the Iron at number 3.
Okay. I'm going to take... Oh, boy. This could be an interesting pick. I'm putting the Apollos at number 2.
We have a new number 1.
All right.
This is just in the interest of power rankings. I feel like the Commanders telling win, and their momentum right now is straight up, whereas the Apollos are starting to show chinks in their armor.
I like it. So, Logan, make it official.
The Arizona Hotshots. Okay, the San Antonio Commanders.
Very nice. All right. Final thoughts on Week 6?
One of the more fun. Well,
We had 2
Week
good
5
games and 2 bad games.
yeah. The week previously was probably the better overall week, but the 2 good games that we did have were really good. I will say that.
Yeah. It's just hard to beat a week that has that Fleet and Stallions game in it. That was so good. Yeah, my final thoughts for Week 6. I think people will forget that it was right after the middle of the season that we started to realize that we might not have full concrete opinions about these teams. People were thinking the Express were going to be good, remember?
People thought
They
that?
were the worst, and then they changed quarterbacks, and now they're going to be really good. And then now they're terrible.
Honestly,
Yeah, shame on those guys.
going into Week 1, since I was stuck watching the Apollos and Legends, I was under the impression that the Apollos and Legends were going to be the 2 worst teams in the league. I was right about the Legends. However, the Apollos, I was very surprised.
Just in an NFL season, usually by halfway, you understand who these teams are and what their identities are. But this season is so short, we're over halfway done, and we're still not entirely sure who can do what on any given weekend.
And that's what makes it fun. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't know who's going to win the championship.
Just like how we don't know who's going to win or be good next year, just based on the fact that anybody could leave the league during this offseason, completely throwing off the balance of the team. Like if Gilbert gets signed and Johnson, I feel like the Apollos, that's it.
Yeah.
And then you have these new cities potentially coming in. You're like, okay, what happens then? Do they pick up like NFL free agents? Like, say, for instance, Richmond got a team. Would they be picking up like NFL free agents from like the Virginia area? People that went to Virginia Tech, UVA, etc.
Marcus Vick, number 1 pick of the Richmond Renegades.
Oh man, hope we don't rob a McDonald's again.
There's a metaphor in here. We were talking about, the fact that these guys can leave for the NFL after every year. It's as if these are 8 college teams that every player is a senior.
It is. It's like a college football, like pro league.
Right.
But I think the difference between the college and the AAF, though, is the fact that you have a pretty good idea of who's going to be good going into the next season of college.
Right.
I think with the AAF, it's going to be Russian roulette.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge element of surprise. You don't know.
Right, there are no dynasties.
Right.
And I think with them adding more teams, it's going to spread the talent out a lot. If they do. If they actually do that. Obviously, nothing has been confirmed. We're just speculating at this point, but yes.
I don't think they would add new teams in the second year. I bet the third year, though, they will.
Well, hopefully my my DC XFL season tickets transfer over.
Now, let's say if they did add next year, I could only see. I would assume it would just be one East and one West. I don't see them going like a giant expansion if they did go year 2.
Right.
We're going to Mexico! What a great place to have winter football than Mexico. Also Dominican Republic. Let's make it happen. So
the Mexico Heisenbergs.
Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us for this quick Week 6 episode. We are going to be doing a very nice episode of March Madness. So please stick around, because by the time you listen to this episode 9 for Wednesday Night Sports, March Madness will be up.